You turn 60, and suddenly everyone's handing you a chair. Sit down more, rest, take it easy. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, people your age are squatting to chat with neighbors, kneeling to sip tea, and standing from the floor without using their hands 20 times a day. And here's the part that should make you stop scrolling. Americans over 60 fall at nearly double the rate of their Japanese counterparts, and those falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in our age group. Yet 99% of American seniors have never heard of the single movement that Japanese elders practice daily. A movement so simple it takes 15 seconds, but so powerful it predicts whether you'll need a nursing home in the next decade. What's happening here isn't genetics. It's not diet alone. It's a specific exercise hiding in plain sight, built into Japanese daily life, but completely absent from American routines. And the consequences show up in the statistics. By age 70, nearly 40% of Americans can't rise from a chair without using their arms. In Japan, that figure sits below 15%. The difference traces back to one repetitive motion most of us abandoned somewhere around age 30, a motion that trains the exact muscle systems and neural pathways that determine whether you'll stay independent or require help with basic tasks. I'm going to walk you through 10 movements practiced by Japanese seniors, counting down from 10 to 1. Number 2 will surprise you because it involves your tongue. But number 1, the movement almost no one talks about outside Japan, is the single most predictive test of longevity and independence available. It costs nothing, requires no equipment, takes seconds, and yet it's been systematically engineered out of American life by chairs, toilets, and cars. Before we start, drop a comment with your age and where you're watching from. I'm curious how many of you can still do what we're about to discuss. Let's begin at number 10. Most American seniors walk for exercise. That's good. But Japanese elders add something subtle. They walk backward for 2 minutes every day. Backward walking forces your brain to rewire balance systems that forward movement never touches. When you walk forward, your body runs on autopilot, the same neural pathways firing in the same sequence they've fired for decades. Backward walking shuts down autopilot. Every step becomes a conscious negotiation between your inner ear, your visual cortex, and the proprioceptors in your feet that tell you where your body exists in space. Studies from rehabilitation centers have tracked older adults who added backward walking to their routines. Within 6 weeks, measures of dynamic balance, the kind that prevents falls when you trip on a rug, improved by margins that forward walking alone never achieved. The mechanism is straightforward. Walking backward recruits stabilizer muscles in your hips and ankles that forward motion ignores, and it trains your nervous system to react faster when the ground surprises you. I worked with a woman named Diane, 71, former accountant, who'd started shuffling her feet and grabbing furniture when she crossed rooms. She didn't trust her legs anymore. I had her walk backward in her hallway just 2 minutes after breakfast, hands near the wall for safety. She hated it the first week, said it felt ridiculous. By week 3, she noticed she was turning her head faster when the dog ran past. By week 6, she walked to her mailbox without thinking about each step. Her daughter called me and said, "What did you do?" She's moving like she's 60 again. Here's the protocol. Find a clear hallway or use a sidewalk with a wall or railing nearby. Walk backward for 2 minutes. Don't look over your shoulder constantly. That defeats the purpose. Glance back every few steps to check for obstacles, then focus on feeling the ground with each foot before you commit your weight. Do this daily, ideally in the morning when your nervous system is fresh. If 2 minutes feels impossible, start with 30 seconds and add 15 seconds each week. But walking backward is just the appetizer. The next movement targets something most people don't think about until they're already in trouble. Number 9. Shin strengthening. Americans over 60 fall forward. That's the pattern. You trip on something low, your toe catches, and you pitch forward because the muscles that lift your toes, the ones running down your shins, have quietly atrophied from decades of walking on flat, predictable surfaces. Japanese seniors who navigate traditional homes with floor seating and uneven garden stones keep these muscles active without trying. You'll need to rebuild them deliberately. Sit in a firm chair. Lift your toes toward your shins as high as they'll go while keeping your heels on the floor. Hold for 2 seconds. Lower. Repeat 20 times. That's 1 set. Do 3 sets, once in the morning, once in the evening. This exercise, called dorsiflexion, wakes up the tibialis anterior, the muscle responsible for clearing your foot over obstacles when you walk. Research from fall prevention clinics shows that weakness in this muscle increases trip risk by a factor of 3. Strengthen it, and your foot clearance improves, meaning the space between your toe and the ground as you swing your leg forward gets larger. Larger clearance equals fewer catches on rugs, curbs, and uneven pavement. George, 74, retired electrician, came to me after his second fall in a month. Both times he'd caught his toe on the edge of a rug and gone down hard. His shins were so weak he couldn't lift his toes more than an inch off the ground. We started the protocol, 3 sets of 20 twice a day. In 2 weeks, he could lift his toes 3 inches. In 4 weeks, he stopped shuffling. He told me, "I didn't realize I'd been walking like I was scared of the floor." Here's a progression once the basic version feels easy. Loop a resistance band around a table leg, hook your foot in the band, and lift your toes against the tension. Or try this. Stand and walk on your heels for 30 seconds, toes lifted high. It burns fast, which means it's working. Now we move to something you probably do every day without realizing you're doing it wrong. Number 8, the bathroom squat. Japanese-style toilets, the kind where you squat instead of sit, train your hips, knees, and ankles through a full range of motion multiple times a day. Americans sit on raised toilets, and over decades we lose the ability to squat deeply. By 60, many of us can't drop into a full squat even if we wanted to. That lost range of motion shows up as stiff hips, tight ankles, and weak glutes, the exact recipe for falls and immobility. You don't need to remodel your bathroom. You need to practice the squat position. Stand facing a sturdy counter or table. Hold the edge lightly for balance. Lower yourself as if you're going to sit in a very low chair, knees tracking over your toes, heels staying on the ground if possible. Go as deep as you can without pain. Hold for 5 seconds. Stand up. Repeat 5 times. At first, your heels might lift and your knees might feel like they're made of rust. That's expected. The goal is to coax your joints back toward the ranges they had when you were 40. Over weeks, your ankles will loosen, your hip flexors will lengthen, and your glutes will remember what they were built to do. Studies on older adults who practice assisted squats show improvements in something called the timed up-and-go test, a measure of how quickly you can stand from a chair. Walk 10 feet, turn around, and sit back down. Faster times correlate with lower fall risk and longer independent living. The squat is the movement that makes everything else easier. Linda, 68, former teacher, told me she hadn't been able to sit cross-legged on the floor with her grandkids for 5 years. Her hips were too tight. She started the bathroom squat protocol, 5 reps every morning while the coffee brewed. After 3 weeks, she could sit on the floor for 10 minutes. After 2 months, she got down and up without help. She cried the first time she did it. She said, "I thought that part of my life was over. Here's a modification if a full squat feels impossible." Place a low stool or a stack of books behind you and squat down until you touch it lightly, then stand. Lower the height as you get stronger. And here's the kicker. Doing this daily doesn't just train your muscles. It trains your nervous system to trust that you can control your body in space, which might be more important than the strength itself, but squats only address the lower body. The next movement targets something higher that almost everyone ignores. Number 7, scapular squeezes. Your shoulder blades, your scapulae, sit on your upper back like wings. When they move correctly, your shoulders stay strong and your posture stays upright. When they don't, your shoulders round forward, your chest collapses, and your spine curls into the hunched shape we associate with frailty. Japanese calligraphy and tea ceremony demand upright posture for hours, which keeps those shoulder blades active. Americans spend hours slouched over phones and steering wheels, and our shoulder blades forget how to move, sit, or stand. Squeeze your shoulder blades together as if you're trying to hold a pencil between them. Hold for 3 seconds, release. Repeat 15 times. Do this twice a day. You'll feel the muscles between your spine and your shoulder blades wake up, sometimes with a burning sensation. That burn is decades of disuse catching fire. Poor scapular control contributes to shoulder pain, rotator cuff issues, and the forward head posture that compresses your neck and limits how far you can turn your head to check for cars. Fixing your shoulder blades fixes a cascade of problems upstream and downstream. A man named Paul, 72, former truck driver, came in with shoulders so rounded he looked like he was perpetually leaning into a windstorm. His neck hurt constantly. I had him do scapular squeezes, 15 reps twice a day. He complained it felt like nothing was happening. I told him to trust the process. After 4 weeks, his wife told him he looked taller. After 8 weeks, his neck pain dropped by half. He said, "I didn't think you could fix posture after 70. You can, but you have to retrain the movement every single day." Here's a progression. Lie face down on the floor with your arms by your sides. Lift your chest an inch off the ground by squeezing your shoulder blades. Hold for 3 seconds. Lower. Repeat 10 times. It's harder than it sounds, which means it's working. Now, let's talk about a part of your body you probably never think about exercising. But Japanese longevity experts consider it critical. Number 6, tongue posture and strength. Your tongue is a muscle. When it's weak or rests in the wrong position, you're more likely to snore, choke on food, and develop sleep apnea. Japanese seniors practice tongue exercises as part of oral health routines, especially in regions with high life expectancy. Americans almost never do. Here's the test. Close your mouth and press your tongue flat against the roof of your mouth, not just the tip, but the whole middle and back of the tongue. Can you hold it there comfortably? If your tongue drops or you have to strain, it's weak. Now, the exercise. Press your tongue against the roof of your mouth as hard as you can. Hold for 5 seconds. Relax. Repeat 10 times. Do this twice a day. It sounds absurd until you learn that tongue strength correlates with swallowing safety. Weak tongue muscles increase the risk of aspiration, where food or liquid goes down the wrong pipe into your lungs, leading to pneumonia, which is one of the top killers of people over 70. Research from speech pathology departments has shown that older adults who practice tongue-strengthening exercises reduce choking incidents and improve the clarity of their speech. The mechanism is simple. A strong tongue controls the bolus, the ball of chewed food, and directs it safely toward your esophagus instead of your trachea. I had a client named Margaret, 69, former librarian, who'd started coughing during meals. She was terrified of choking. I taught her the tongue press. She did it every morning and night, 10 reps, 5-second holds. Within 3 weeks, the coughing stopped. She said, "I didn't know you could exercise your tongue. I thought it just did what it wanted." Here's another exercise. Stick your tongue out as far as it will go and try to touch your chin. Hold for 3 seconds. Pull it back in and try to touch your nose. Alternate 10 times. It looks ridiculous. Do it anyway. But even a strong tongue won't save you if the next system is broken. Number 5. Standing on one leg. Balance isn't just about preventing falls. It's a window into how well your brain and body communicate. Japanese seniors test their balance regularly, often as part of community health programs. Americans avoid balance work because it feels scary, which is exactly why we need it. Here's the test that predicts more than almost any other single measure. Stand on one leg with your eyes open. Time how long you can hold it without touching anything or putting your other foot down. If you're 60 to 69 and you can't hold it for at least 10 seconds, your risk of death from any cause over the next decade is significantly higher, according to research from multiple international cohorts. If you can hold it for 30 seconds or more, you're in the top tier. Why does balance matter so much? Because it integrates everything: muscle strength, joint stability, vestibular function in your inner ear, visual input, and neurological coordination. When balance fails, it's often the first sign that one or more of these systems is degrading. Practicing balance doesn't just prevent falls. It keeps all those systems talking to each other. Stand near a counter or wall for safety. Lift 1 foot an inch off the ground. Hold as long as you can. Switch feet. Do this daily. When you can hold 30 seconds easily, progress to eyes closed. which is exponentially harder because you lose the visual crutch. I worked with a man named Robert, 73, retired engineer who couldn't stand on one leg for 5 seconds. He felt humiliated. I told him that 5 seconds was his baseline, not his destiny. We practiced daily. In 2 weeks, he hit 10 seconds. In 6 weeks, he hit 30. He told me, I didn't realize how much I'd been grabbing walls and furniture until I didn't need to anymore. Here's a sneaky way to practice. Brush your teeth on one leg. You're already standing at the sink for 2 minutes. Use the time. Switch legs halfway through, but balance is only part of the equation. The next movement builds something even more fundamental. Number 4, floor sitting. Americans over 60 sit in chairs all day. Japanese seniors, especially in traditional households, sit on the floor to eat, to visit, to watch television. Getting down to the floor and back up trains your hips, core, and legs in ways a chair never will. And there's a test for this that's both simple and sobering. It's called the sitting rising test. Without using your hands, knees, or any support, lower yourself to a seated position on the floor. Then stand back up. You start with 10 points. Every time you use a hand, knee, forearm, or side of your leg for support, you lose a point. Every wobble or loss of balance costs half a point. Your score predicts mortality risk. People who score 0 to 3 points have a mortality risk 5 to 6 times higher over the next 6 years compared to those who score 8 or above. Can you do it? Most Americans over 60 score below 5. Many can't do it at all. The test measures strength, flexibility, balance, and coordination in one brutal package. But here's the good news. You can train every component. Start by sitting on the floor more often. Use a cushion if your hips are tight. Practice lowering yourself with minimal hand support, then practice standing up with minimal support. It's going to be hard at first. That's the point. Every attempt trains the movement. A woman named Carol, 70, former nurse, failed the test completely. She needed both hands and both knees and a piece of furniture to get down and up. She was angry about it. I told her we'd work backward. We practiced standing up from progressively lower surfaces. A dining chair, a coffee table, a step stool, a thick cushion. After 3 months, she could get down to the floor with one hand and get up with one hand. She scored 6 points. She said, I haven't sat on the floor since I was 50. I forgot what it felt like to be able to. Here's the protocol. Once a day, get down to the floor and back up. Use as little support as possible. Track your score weekly. As you improve, you're not just getting better at a test. You're rebuilding the physical capacity that predicts how long you'll live independently. Now we're getting into the territory where most people start to feel uncomfortable. The next one requires trust. Number 3, walking with eyes closed. Your balance system has 3 inputs: vision, inner ear, and proprioception, the sense of where your body is based on feedback from your joints and muscles. Most people over 60 rely almost entirely on vision. When you close your eyes, you force the other 2 systems to work harder. This is called sensory reweighting, and it's how you bulletproof your balance against the unexpected. Find a clear hallway or open space. Close your eyes. Walk forward slowly, arms out slightly for balance. Try to take 10 steps. If you veer to one side, wobble, or feel panicked, your vestibular system and proprioception are weaker than they should be. That's common. That's also fixable. Practice this daily. Start with 5 steps, eyes closed, near a wall you can touch if needed. Add 1 step each week. Over time, you'll feel your body learning to balance without seeing. This translates directly to real-world scenarios: walking in a dark bedroom, navigating a poorly lit parking lot, or recovering when someone bumps into you. Studies on older adults who practice eyes-closed balance exercises show improvements in something called postural sway, the amount your body moves when you're trying to stand still. Less sway means better control, which means fewer falls. I had a client named Thomas, 71, retired pilot, who couldn't take 3 steps with his eyes closed without grabbing for the wall. He'd been relying on his vision to compensate for a vestibular system that had quietly weakened. We practiced every session. 5 steps became 10. 10 became 20. After 2 months, he walked the length of his hallway, eyes closed, no wobble. He said, "It's like I downloaded a new operating system. Here's a progression. Once you can walk 10 steps, eyes closed, try standing on one leg with your eyes closed for 10 seconds. It's astronomically hard. That's good. Hard means your brain is rewiring, but even perfect balance won't help if the neck system is broken. And it's broken in almost everyone over 60. Number 2, jaw and neck lymphatic massage. This one surprises people because it's not a movement in the traditional sense. It's a self-massage that drains lymphatic fluid from your face and neck, reducing puffiness, brain fog, and the risk of sinus infections. Japanese facial massage routines, some passed down for generations, stimulate the lymph system daily. Americans almost never touch this. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your cardiovascular system. It relies on muscle movement and manual manipulation to push fluid through. As you age, lymph flow slows, leading to swelling, dull skin, and a feeling of heaviness in your head. Stimulating the lymph nodes in your neck and jaw reverses this. Here's the technique. Sit upright. Place your fingertips just below your ears where your jaw meets your neck. Press gently and make small circles 10 times. Move your fingers an inch down your neck. Repeat. Work your way down to your collarbones. The whole sequence takes 90 seconds. Do it every morning. You should feel a slight drainage sensation, sometimes a tingling or lightness in your face. That's lymph fluid moving. Research on lymphatic drainage shows benefits for reducing inflammation, improving skin tone, and even enhancing cognitive clarity by improving waste removal from the brain via the lymphatic system. I taught this to a woman named Helen, 74, former artist who complained of feeling foggy and puffy every morning. She did the massage daily for 2 weeks. She said her face looked less swollen and she felt sharper. After a month, she said, "I didn't realize how much my head felt like it was full of cotton until it didn't anymore." Here's a bonus. After the neck, massage your temples in small circles 10 times in each direction. This stimulates blood flow and can reduce tension headaches. Now we arrive at the movement that changes everything, the one that 99% of American seniors overlook. Number 1, sitting and rising from the floor without hands. I mentioned the sitting-rising test earlier, but now I'm going to tell you why this single movement is the most important predictor of longevity and independence you'll ever encounter. It's not just a test. It's a daily practice in Japan, woven into a lifestyle that includes floor seating, low tables, and cultural norms that keep people dropping to the ground and standing up dozens of times a day. When you lower yourself to the floor without using your hands, you're controlling your body weight through a full range of motion with eccentric strength, the kind that prevents injury. When you stand up without using your hands, you're generating force through your glutes, quads, and core in a coordinated pattern that requires mobility, stability, and power. This one movement trains everything. Here's what the research shows. People over 60 who can perform the sitting-rising test with a score of 8 or above, meaning minimal or no hand support, have a mortality rate 6 times lower than those who score 3 or below. 6 times. That's not a marginal difference. That's the difference between independence and dependence, between living in your home and living in a facility. Why is this movement so predictive? Because it requires the integration of every physical system: leg strength, hip flexibility, ankle mobility, core stability, balance, coordination, and neuromuscular control. If any one system is failing, the movement breaks down. It's a full-body diagnostic test disguised as a simple action. But here's the part that should make you sit up. This movement isn't about genetics or luck. It's trainable. You can go from needing 2 hands and a chair to rise, to standing up from the floor unassisted. It takes months, not weeks. It requires consistent practice. But it's possible, and the payoff is a decade or more of independence. Start where you are. If you can't get to the floor at all, practice standing up from progressively lower surfaces. A chair, a bench, a coffee table, a step, a thick cushion on the floor. Work your way down over weeks. If you can get to the floor but need hands to get up, practice reducing the hand support. Use one hand instead of 2. Use fingertips instead of palms. Eventually, no hands. Here's a protocol. Once a day, practice the sit-to-stand transition at the lowest height you can manage with good control. Don't rush. Don't risk injury. Progress slowly. Track your score monthly using the sitting rising test. Celebrate every point you gain. I worked with a man named Arthur, 76, retired mechanic, who scored a 2 on the sitting rising test when we started. He needed both hands, both knees, and he wobbled getting up. He was convinced he'd never improve. I told him to trust the process. We worked on hip flexibility, glute strength, and balance separately, then integrated them into the movement. After 4 months, he scored a 6. After 8 months, he scored an 8. He could get down and up with no hands. He cried. He said, "I thought I was done. I thought this was just how it was going to be." It doesn't have to be. The sitting rising movement is the single most powerful physical practice you can adopt after 60. It's the movement that predicts whether you'll need help in the next decade. It's the movement that Japanese seniors do without thinking because their environment demands it. And it's the movement that almost no one in America practices until it's too late. But here's the thing, it's not too late. Not if you start today. Not if you commit to the practice. Not if you accept that progress is slow but cumulative. Every attempt, every lowered surface, every reduction in hand support is a vote for future independence. This isn't about living forever. It's about living fully for as long as you're here. It's about being the person who gets down on the floor to play with grandkids and stands back up without groaning. It's about being the person who doesn't need to map out where the chairs are before entering a room. It's about maintaining the physical autonomy that lets you live on your own terms. The Japanese have known this for generations. They've built it into their daily lives without making it a formal exercise. They sit on the floor. They squat. They walk backward up hills. They practice balance on uneven temple steps. They strengthen their tongues as part of oral hygiene. They massage their lymph nodes. They move in ways that Western life has systematically removed. You can't change your environment overnight, but you can adopt the practices. Walk backward for 2 minutes daily. Strengthen your shins. Squat with assistance. Squeeze your shoulder blades. Press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Stand on one leg while you brush your teeth. Sit on the floor. Walk with your eyes closed. Massage your neck. And above all, practice sitting and rising from the floor without hands. These aren't just exercises. They're a blueprint for maintaining independence. They're the movements that separate thriving from surviving. And they're the movements that 99% of American seniors will never hear about because our healthcare system waits until you fall instead of teaching you how not to. You don't have to be part of that. 99%. Which of these movements surprised you most? And which one will you start practicing today? Drop a comment and let me know.